Roundtable India and Rotary International. He is a past district governor of Rotary International, District 3150. He was the chairman of Asia Pacific Region Council of World Council of Service Clubs. He was executive member of Indian Red Cross Society AP State Branch for 12 years, awarded gold medal by His Excellency the Governor of Andhra Pradesh for exemplary services. He also served as an advisor on the Finance Committee of IRCS AP State Branch. He was executive committee member of Village Reconstruction Organization, helped providing low-cost house to over 300 villages covering over 5,000 families. Currently executive committee member of Indian Rural Health Services (IRHS). Lead rescue and assistant team to the cyclone-affected areas at Machilipatnam and earthquake affected areas of Latur. He has been appointed as arbitrator by NSC National Exchange and also the Investor Grievances Redressal Committee by the Bombay Stock Exchange and MCS Exchanges. He has been appointed as a member of Audit Committee of Rotary International for 2019-25 and is a vice chair. And he is a vice chairman for the Committee of Stewardship of over $2 billion. With this, I welcome you, sir, to this. Next panel speaker and a panelist. It's a great for me to introduce our very senior member, CID Venkata Janakinath, sir, a graduate BSc from Usman University. He is a PG diploma in ADR issues by NERSA in collaboration with the International Center for ADR. He is a DISA issue. He has completed his DISA of ICI, registered as insolvency professional with IBDI. He is a partner in Mergopal in Chennai since 1992. Conducted central statutory audits of SBI, SBH, Bank of Baroda, CBI, and as Central Bank of India, and has wide experience conducting bank audits and statutory audit of Managed Cooperative Development Bank, AP State Cooperative Bank. Also conducted audits of PSUs like BHE and NTPC, Vidhani, BGCIL, and many other companies in private sector. Conducted audits of branches of Bank of Baroda, Andhra Bank, Syndicate Bank, and internal audit of TSCA. He has served the ICI as corporate member of Expert Advisory Committee, Banking, Insurance, and Pension Committee of ICI and Accounting Standard Committee at the Hyderabad branch. Delivered lectures on audit of bank branches, IRAC norms at Warangal branch of ICI on accounting standards and disclosure notes to accounts for statutory central auditors at Chennai. Also delivered lectures on IRAC norms for multi-state and cooperative development banks for statutory auditors of such banks at RBI Hyderabad. Recently delivered lecture on branch LFR Kakinada branch, virtual and on IRC norms at West Godavari district branches. He is appointed as a member of Audit Advisory Board to the CAG of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana states during 2016-17. Technical reviewer will be Peer Review Board and Quality Review Board of ICI. With this, I present before you Sri Venkata Janakinath. Sri Vijay Kodapalli sir is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered of India and was a member of Institute of Internal Auditors in India. Having 28 years of post experience, which includes exposure in assurance, internal audit, SOX 404, SAS 70 audit. He worked in Ernst & Young, right from EY, India, PwC, and Deloitte. Vijay sir has managed few SOX 404 and controls SAS 470 reviews for PwC US several clients in India and ITGC, ERM reviewers and business process reviewers for Indian listed assurance engagements. Vijay sir also has experience in financial statement review and audit relating to compliances under various gaps. He worked in statutory audits, limited reviews of many MNCs both in India and in UK and across the world. Vijay sir was a senior member in global strategic sourcing team of PwC, worked with UK and Indian firms on outsourcing audit project as a part of that. He worked with PwC UK as a part of the assurance team during 2004-10. He was also involved in transfer pricing attestation reviews in UI India. Vijay sir is now working on ICFOR, India AS translations and GST compliance assignments and other consulting jobs. Sir is a technical reviewer of FRB, peer review of ICI, and also work on few QRP assignments. So this I introduce Vijay sir also. And
thank you, sir, for the kind introduction. May I request Vijay Kodapalli sir, other Jawahar sir and Janakinath sir to please proceed with your key inputs. Thank you.
So what I suggest is that instead of giving a lecture, since the bank audits are already over, let's do it on a sort of a question answer session, which would probably cover the gamut and which would make the seminar more interesting. So if whatever questions are there from the audience as well as whatever have been prepared, you can answer those questions.
That would be a good starting point. Before we start dive deep into the questions, as part of the audit methodology, once an audit is completed, we need to have some kind of a debrief with the team. Of course, the team is scattered by various branch auditors all over the South India or all over. So, I mean, as part of the process, debriefing process, we need to discuss the key learnings, what went well, what kind of gaps that we identified during the branch audit, and how do we take it forward when we start again, having assignments with the bank audit, banks, be in the role of a concurrent auditor, or for the next year or in subsequent years stat audits, what would be our key learning points so that we will face the regulators and other stakeholders when they question us in terms of what we have done so far. So in this process, we need to have reassess our key learnings after the completion of this branch audit. So I'm very thankful to the young chairman of this branch, who has accepted this idea and initiated this process. That's why we are here. And my fellow panelists who are very experienced in bank audits and other audits will supplement in the questions what could go wrong or what went wrong in the branch audits. First and foremost thing to our panelists is whether we had the documentation in our file with respect to the audits what we have done, where we have noticed these things. There are a lot of gaps when it comes to reviewing these audits. Like we don't have any other documents in our audit file other than the appointment letters. We have noticed. So this, I thought to start with, this would be a key learning point. Like what should be there in the branch audit files?
Your thoughts. So, from the point of view of a branch auditor, and having gone through the files of the previous auditor, the documents, the communication done by the previous auditors of the branches that we have done, as also the reports of the concurrent auditors and the inspection auditors, staff auditors. One thing is very clear that still people are not very sure. I suppose I don't want to use any harsh language, but I think our fellow members are not sure of what documentation is actually required before the work is done. I for sure have seen that there was no engagement letter in the file of the bank. I cannot talk about the file of the auditor because I don't have access, but I can definitely see what is available in the bank files. So usually when we give an engagement letter, we also give a copy of the engagement letter to the bank. So this was missing in the bank file, so I assume that the engagement letter was not given. On a similar note, I did not see any queries on the file of the banker. So as a person reviewing or sitting on the review, not of the auditor, but of a bank file, I would not know what questions were asked and what answers were given by the banker. So I tried to find out whether there were any communications with the previous auditor. Unfortunately, all emails prior to 6 months from the close of the year were not available. So there was no what you call communication available at all.
Just to add, if you don't have any NOCs from the previous auditor, that branch auditor will be subjected to NCPs. Even
Yes.
though it is not.
Yes, I mean, they did give, the previous auditor had given the NOC to us, we had written to them. And in case of both the branches that we did, we got a clear NOC from the, they did not have any objection. So as far as the documentation from the previous auditors, I can talk about this. The second one is regarding following the format of the audit report itself in various audits. The reports are not being followed, and especially in case of non-corporate organizations. Surprising to know, when we spoke to one of the auditors who was locally present, he said these reports are only meant for companies. So it was a shocker to me.
Probably SS 700 was not being read by that auditor in a way. There was even an illustrative example of audit reports for non-profit entities. I request the members to read SS 700 and the illustrative examples given in that SS 700, where in which they can find even the format of the audit report for non-corporate entities.
To supplement Jawahar, what I generally have seen in many banks, for that question in LFR, have you received the financial statements and audit reports of non-corporate entities? Generally, they are just taking whatever is submitted to the income tax authorities. But there is a very old circular in the 80s that has been given by RBI, which states that the format of audit report should be as per now 700. That was sometime in the 80s. A circular was given that the audit report should be in a certain format. Now they are just accepting 3CA or 3CB along with the financials. That is not enough for us to answer that particular question. If it is not in the format of SS 700, I think, in my opinion, we should be reporting that it is not in the format.
Another question which we all need to ask is, do we have enough time for our branch audits?
Well, it's a chase to complete the audit always. But I have seen this year especially that the pressure on us was not as much, at least on us, on the banks that we did, branches we did. There was not much of a pressure. In fact, in one audit, I have taken about 10 days because the information was not available, and we were in communication with the regional office. We asked for some certification by the regional office. All that took time, and then of course there were a couple of holidays, Good Fridays, and all that. So we could not do so. It took a fairly good amount of time, and this year we were pretty comfortable. But the previous year, after the third day, the pressure started. Sir, when are we going? We are the last branch. All the other auditors have given their audit reports. Sir, we will be, pulled up by our regional office. So, we have to tell them that, whatever pressure you have from your regional office or higher ups is your problem, not ours. But as long as we need information, you will have to do it. So we could always, take a couple of days extra. But otherwise, this year there was not much of pressure. What about you, Jack?
No. See that the pressure they bring, that we are the last branch, every other branch is over. Every branch addresses its own branch auditors like that. They'll pressurize the auditor like that. You take your time, nobody can complain. You will have your own time. They may threaten complaints, ask them to complain, because RBI just will not take action just because you have taken extra time. And as he said, this year we had absolutely no pressure. One of the branches we are completing today. Now that was because of some issues, interpretational issues with some circulars. Maybe I'll tell you what could be the issues at a later, I think, that one of the
Just
question
one,
that
one addition, I just want to find out from you, whether this year or the previous year you were told, sir, what a beautiful audit you are doing, sir.
that is the
Previous
first thing.
auditor-
No, that I have been seeing for the last 30 years, yeah.
Previous auditor did nothing, sir.
Sir, ऐसा तो क्वेश्चन कभी किसी ने पूछा ही नहीं है.
You're not gone to any temple visit, things like that.
The moment they would land up there, they'll say, sir, there is a temple here. Why don't we visit there, sir? These kind of things, I think the youngsters should try and cope up with and get adjusted to. Because the first time you ask any question, they'll always say this, sir, nobody has asked questions till date, sir. My experience with the bank is for 25 years I have been as a bank. In the bank, nobody has asked this question. Don't get carried away by such questions.
Just to add, sir, in fact, due date itself by the branch nominated itself was 15th this time. The official generally it will be 9th or 10th.
Yeah.
This time, even though we got only 2 branches, even the previous.
Then they gave me enough time this time, yeah.
Time,
There
the
were no
time limit
complaints.
was sufficient in my.
Yeah, there's no complaints about timings.
Okay, that's a good point. Have you guys taken rep letters, that management representation letters,
Yeah.
as per HKS?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
generally I feel the banks resist to branches rather, resist to give such rep letters.
Oh, okay, let me add to what you're saying. I mean, I think in the last many years, I have not had any problem with branches giving the.
When you walk in after seeing you, they may not do it. Guys like us, if we go, they just say, yeah, we don't know.
No, I had a case long ago. It was a branch of State Bank of India. When I asked for a management representation and some queries, I said, I want the answers in writing. It was an AGM branch. They wrote to the local head office to find out whether any answers can be given in writing. Now, there was a DGM at the local head office who took a legal advice. And the lawyer said that they are writing, as per the information and explanations given to us, and therefore you are bound to give the answers in writing wherever you want. Unfortunately for the bank, my boss, under whom I did my CA, was the central auditor. So he took the DGM, to task. Said, "How dare you even take a legal opinion on this matter?" And then he went to the extent of saying that the cost of the legal matter would be debited to him. So I mean, of course, that was a long story.
Then you are lucky they didn't refer to HR. It would have taken a lot more time.
And one quick question to the panelists is, do you people had any resistance in terms of not to qualify the audit report, not to give an MOC? I just want this question given to the audience.
Yeah. Generally, MOCs, they object, they start pleading, they do everything. But for qualifications, they don't even understand what it is. So you can qualify whatever you want. That has been my experience.
That's true.
Anything you want to add, Brenda? No pressure on.
No, do they understand qualifications?
They don't understand.
Yeah, so you can coolly qualify, nobody is going to ask you questions or nobody will object to that.
But on this, I would like to give a note of caution, because the moment we are trying to qualify anything, we need to be very careful that we have enough documentation for our qualification. Qualification is not a joke, and especially because this would be immediately seen under a lens by all the central auditors. So be careful that whatever qualification you give is properly documented, and that there is no way that they can make you back out.
And one more thing is, it should be unambiguous. Don't go for ambiguity, because now if you have looked at the latest circular issued by companies, MCA, they are trying to now standardize the language of qualifications. I think Prerna can substitute for that, right, sir?
Yes.
recently they have circulated. The exposure draft is expected to be replied by 6th of May. In that, one of the things is they are standardizing the qualifications because of the language some of the auditors are using there.
Yes, sir.
Ambiguous.
SBA will not give any room for any kind of additions to what they have done in the standard audit.
But
Because
can-
they are last year, I don't think they have done anything. If there are any auditors of SBA, they can supplement what I said.
But can't we just say that, we are issuing a separate letter to the central auditor?
We can do that, but how
I
many
think
of
that
our
is the only-
auditors?
Yeah,
But that would not be considered as a
No,
qualification.
in the format, there's no space for the qualification.
No,
No
In
space.
no,
No
it's all
space.
online. The thing is, it's all online and you can't write anything extra.
Okay.
Whereas in case of Union Bank, we had to give a physical report, so we had every chance of qualification.
In the
So this, I think, we need to be, extra cautious where the
Even the
report.
concurrent audit report is also very specific. We cannot go out of that even. If you have any discrepancy in their formatting and documentation, then there's no scope in their format, especially in the concurrent audit format.
Yeah, if that is the case, I think you can put an annexure to your document audit
Okay.
and then give it to the manager and send it to the relevant reporting authority with an acknowledgement.
And then the only thing I would like to add to what Vijay has said is that ensure that you make a mention of this additional report in your
Main report
And
itself.
in
Very
their
well.
format.
Yeah,
there
in their
should be
format itself.
Any ready
Yes.
button or.
Yeah, any box which is available in the standard report, you can refer to our separate
These are
report.
the attachments. also.
Yeah, and which we have been issuing to branch manager.
and if you can clearly mark, give identification mark of the annexures, that would be better.
Sir, one important point Vijay sir has raised, a separate letter to the central statutory auditor. Tomorrow, in case of any eventuality, we are giving a clean audit report or whatever be the reason and giving a separate letter to the central statutory auditor. If it goes to RBI or to the DC committee, audit report is our the sword where you have to sway.
Yeah,
So
very good
whether
question.
separate letter will save us from this or
As
for
in-
youngsters like us, it's a very important point.
Yeah. Deepak, I will answer your question. To whom you, as a branch auditor, to whom the report is issued,
Central
which
statutory.
is the central statutory
Yes,
audit.
yes.
In that report, there are 2-3 boxes which are available. There you can write, refer to our separate report enclosed.
Okay.
So if you mention something like that, and then send it to the central auditor, although you have used the backwards template for stat audit, that is sufficient.
Acha, here I would
And
like
you
to add,
send to the central auditors, get the acknowledgement. Because the local head office, if it is state bank, you have local head office here in Hyderabad. Even if you are working remotely in any corner of the village, just see that you get the acknowledgement for the separate report which you have issued. Yeah, Jyotika.
with this, you must be very careful that, as Deepak rightly said, you give a clean report and put all your qualifications in for the central auditor, you are not, you do not, you are not recused from your responsibility. So you have to be very clear that what you are going to mention there means these are the qualifications, etc. Give the points and then say details of in the annexure. Only then. Otherwise, you will not be able to.
I have a
give
point
space
here,
for-
Jyotika, because
There may be a space constraint there.
space constraint and
No,
limitation of space.
Then at least use the
Subject
word
to-
qualification.
Say subject to,
Need to
subject to
qualify.
or
Need to
subject.
qualify first.
See, for additional qualifications due to space constraint, refer separate.
Correct.
At least that much,
Yeah.
as an auditor, you have to some
No,
extent.
no, I'm trying to
English
answer.
professors also.
Yeah, I'm trying to answer what you were to Deepak. When he said, we are giving a clean report at the branch and giving the qualifications to the auditor.
No, no.
No,
You have to say that you have
Yeah.
qualified somewhere
Yes.
and refer to that qualification.
To the center.
See, another point, of course, we are going to discuss things in detail. There are sundry deposits and suspense accounts which is a key learning point this time because of the mergers that has happened. There could be a lot of accounts unreconciled. I just want to understand how these will be done.
Well, in my case, the details were not made available to me. So what I did was I took it in writing in the management representation that the details are not provided. Accordingly, I had put it in the relevant box in the LFAR that the information was not provided. What was only provided was the aging of the concerned accounts. But that's a computer generated statement, and without any backup to verify it, I mean, I don't give any credence to that. So therefore, we had to, I did that. Then where my partner handled it, he's got the information as far as the aging was concerned, and he was able to check a few because they were the last pattern entries. However, in my case, what I was given was the account copy of the sundry deposits and the suspense for the whole year. It went over 200 pages. What will I refer? How do I know which are the outstanding entries? So I just ignored them.
In our case, we qualified in the main report, stating that there is no details available, and we were informed that this is because of the merger, because the actual physical merger took at one place, the software merger was at another point of time, and entries before that we didn't have details. From the date of merger of software, migrations, date of migration was, the entries were dated on the date of migration, but no, whatever was earlier, no details were available. So we suggested that head office take the central auditor to take a view and take a provision for so it's on.
Yeah, another question is, did the branch has answered the replies to the inspection and other reports, and whether other branch auditors have we seen it and considered these things in our LFAR and other places, wherever it is to be considered.
As I told you, it was supervisory role, so I told them what to do. They have not got back to me.
Yeah, in my case, though it was a very large branch, it was only because of one major account. The rest of it was very petty accounts. So not much of. And the best part was the branch manager was not even able to give me a copy of the concurrent audit report and the inspection audit. I mean the inspection report, and he had no idea whether the audits had taken place. So I got that written in the AMR. Otherwise, what could I do?
Correct.
And the previous year's annual report he gave me, and when I asked him to give any the replies that were given for this, he produced the entire bunch of those 200 pages to me and said, "So you go through it and tell me whether I need to reply."
That is a good escape velocity. Anything from your side to add on this inspection report?
For us, the branch was actually inspected, but they have not given the report. So our responsibility was much higher on that. Because instead of relying on the report directly, we can take the conclusion and consider this. But the report, unfortunately, the inspection had in the month of February. So they did not submit the report. Branch is not compliant because of the observation. We have to do not take care of that report in total.
You know, in this case, there was a concurrent auditor, but the reports were not available. And when I checked with the branch manager, he said that the auditor comes at once in 6 months and has not yet given the report during the year. So that's a seal.
I just
Sir,
want to.
this is with this, which bank, sir? This is with, so actually, with the scheduled banks, it's very necessary to submit the
Can
form.
we talk about this offline?
No,
Sorry.
probably for this kind of a thing where auditor, if the manager claims that he has not submitted the report, we can immediately ask for, have you made any payments to these auditors and try to check the P&L. I don't know
Yes,
where
sir.
the payments come, it should come from the branch only rather than head office. Because concurrent auditor raise bills from the branches to the.
No, sir, from the head office.
Head office.
The payment is from head office. So the midway, it could be like that, the report is not submitted, but the payment is going on. This
Yeah,
is usually in Rajasthan. I'm saying about the scenario of Rajasthan.
Like here also, the payment for the concurrent auditor.
The
has to
payment
be
is
promptly.
generated directly from them and
Yeah,
credited.
That is the main problem. That is the reason
One thing I can tell you, Jawahar, we have done the same bank. Their report is supposed to be submitted online.
Yes.
It is not offline. And when you ask for a total report, they just give you a gist of one page. Beyond that, they say, sir, we are not able to get this.
No, agreed. Here, the auditor himself cannot come for 6 months.
Oh, good.
To the
Nice
branch.
auditor here. Nice
In
bank,
the point regarding,
nice bank.
in the point regarding the observations. Yeah, in the point regarding the observation of the audit report, there is something very important point which I came to know across is the reliance to be put on the stock audit report in the last quarter. If the auditor is certifying, the stock auditor is certifying the book debts and availability of DP on the last week of, in the last quarter, it does not go over 90 days, and we certify the full DP. So it's actually it gets a bit difficult for us to substantiate that is non-availability of DP, although the branch records or the transactions, the stock statement, aging give us the actual otherwise factuality. So when we say they say, sir, audit just now but done in the month of Jan, full DP is there, so 90 days is not yet crossing on March.
No, it's not like that. Whether you have the stock audit or not, the stock statements, including the debtors and creditors, have to be given on a monthly basis, and that too on the last day.
Yes.
Now, what is the sanctity of a stock audit? Whenever it is given, on that day, if you have a copy of your stock statement submitted to you by the customer, you can correlate issues. Plus, you can correlate certain figures from their financial statements. So you as a branch auditor have to do a little bit of analysis. It will be good for that. Secondly, if the if no stock statements have been submitted after the date of the stock audit report, yes, we can take the DPA for up to 90 days. However, that's an early warning signal to you. So you have to make a mention of that.
That's a red flag.
So one thing here, Deepak, stock audit report, do they really rely on it for arriving at the DP? That is one question we need to ask the branches.
They force us to rely on.
Not you, sir. How are they entering the DP? How are they?
using it for the purpose of
They don't use it for the,
Yeah.
for the purpose of calculating DP and entering in the computer. What is the basis?
Stock
It is
statement.
not the stock audit report, it is the stock statement.
Yes.
So we ignore the stock audit report, as he said, only for comparison you use it, otherwise you ignore for DP. DP calculations, more than 90 days, it is just irregular account, more than 180 days, it is NPA. That is the limit. So any stock statement which is not received after August, month of August, because that is received in the month of September. So 180 days, from there it is an
And the
NPA.
vice versa, the stock auditor says no DP. Okay, on a many visits. Okay, the 90 days period, they get the fresh stock statement and say the DP is there
No,
now.
there
There
again,
is or
there you have to take care.
Exactly. So when it calls, they say you take stock audit as report. When they say you take stock statement as the base because that's the latest and give the real picture.
Then stock audit report, if you go by RBI circular or NPS, the depletion in security, that is one of the points for making it directly DBAR. Instead of going through substandard or not. If there are no stocks present on the day, let's ask them to prove the stock statement, how far is it correct? Otherwise, go on a visit. You go yourself, take the latest stock statement available, go there and see if the stock is not there. Say there are no stocks, it is directly, it can be taken to the D1. And if there is no other security, it's a loss. So you go by the RBI circular on that.
Okay, since we are talking on DP, the question comes with respect to calculation of penal interest. How are we comfortable that they are calculating penal interest correctly? How many of us have issues in the LFAR of penal interest calculation on the sampled accounts selected, that is more than 10 crores? How many we
About 10%.
10% of the advances and things like that. Any
I did not come across any such issue, but how you go about is very simple. I mean, if at all you have any red flag in the account while you are checking if there are any issues, when will the situation of a penal interest arrive? It's only when certain concurrents have not been adhered to, right? So if I didn't come across any, so I can't comment on it. But the fact is, once you are clear that a covenant has not been followed, then check out what is the thing, and then from the date on which it is applicable. A lot of times you get a mistake in the date. The penal interest is not calculated from the date it should have been. So that becomes a major issue. So you please check on that. But otherwise, I mean, this time I didn't find any.
No, yeah, we found out.
Yeah.
One of the covenants that external credit rating should have been obtained. It was not. It was obtained post facto, when mostly in March. The period from the date of sanction till March, they didn't calculate any penal interest because one thing, that covenant was not entered in the software. I'm not sure. Premnath sir can tell us. Sir, how will it pick it up? Because I'm not.
It's not. No,
It's not there.
There is no provision in the software for
So
such.
there is so that is not automated. So we need to see whether penal interest on such things will really affect the financials. If it does, then we may have to qualify in our IFC also. Depends on them.
This point is for the concurrent audits, that they should write saying that there is a gap or a gray spot in terms of calculation of penal interest. This is not automated. It is manual, so there is a new loss and there is a red flag for not calculating the penal interest. It will give an incorrect DP also where you got unknown.
Delay in submission of stock statements is also another point where penal interest could not be calculated, because I think these are all manual. But at least there was no red flagging or any indication by the concurrent auditor of the branch. I think this is more concurrent audits. They should take care for this, for deficiencies in these systems.
No,
So
as
it
far
is
as
the routine
the
audit for a concurrent auditor, and they make sure it to apply that action on the
No,
software.
but this is a defect in the system. Systematic. See, what they have calculated, what you have given them as income, that is leakage. But there is a system defect in the system.
Design deficiency.
So,
in fact, on this non-flagging of various things, I have actually qualified my IFC and then brought the qualification to the manual auditor.
Exactly. That's what I am saying.
One in the IFC and the other in LFAR also.
LFAR, whether the interest has been correctly calculated. Yeah.
That's the reason why every branch has to come under the revenue audit. The head office knows that these are all manual. The chance of revenue escaping, and hence they have put the revenue audit.
This is a strong point. Sorry, sir. This is a strong point for which the CA forum has to advocate all the branches not to restrict the branch bank audits, because they have this manually dependent automated controls or manual controls do exist where things are not fully automated, which could result to humongous fraud and NPA. This is a red flag which you need to highlight.
No, but I think the central auditors also need to highlight it to the branch auditors. What are the manual points where manual intervention is being there? You know, otherwise, how will the branch auditor know?
No, sir, simple, very simple is take the hard copy of the sanction letter. That's in Word, anyhow, that is in Word, put it in Excel. Go on, try to mark each covenant whether it is complied or not, that is the best thing. More or less for all the borrowers, the same set of conditions are there.
Yeah, it's a
For
template.
column A, serial number 1, column B are the covenants, column C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, all the borrowers. So at one shot you will able to know whether they are complying or not. That's the best.
Sir, I fully agree that we can do a performance of what you said, but there is a huge design deficiency which the concurrent auditors, the central auditors, and the branch auditors has to highlight, because they have not identified the risks that what could go wrong with these kind of gaps in the internal control on financial reporting and all these manual controls which they have, which operate multiple times a day or as and when it happens. So this lacuna has to be highlighted, and this could be one of the reasons to to say that the branch audit is very important, to pick these red flags and arrest the revenue leakage and minimize the non-NPAs.
It could be a pre-check on the NPAs again.
Yeah, exactly.
Sir, is charging penal interest mandatory? Because generally, what happens, I'm just saying, from a vendor, normal vendor, sending material to supplier. Credit period 30 days, otherwise penal charges of 12% will charge on the penal. But in a trade practice, it does not get. Okay. In the banking practice, the main interest, the principle of what the purpose of loan, it is mandatory. Sometimes they say that a good trade practice, big borrower, penal interest is only for us to right to claim. It is something good relationship. It is a type that is why we are not charging it mandatory because the customer. Is that bargain acceptable to concurrent or revenue auditors?
No, sir.
It is acceptable point. The borrower will pay.
No.
There is no.
I tell you, this is a system in the bank where each level there is a delegation of authority. For waiver of penal interest, he has to take the permission of the higher authority. No branch manager can take that.
Waiver is not allowed.
For
By the manager, by that branch manager, waiver is not allowed.
no, you cannot. He cannot take the decision of waiving. It is waiving. Sir, if I am not debiting it, tantamount to waiver. Correct. I think Jawahar, you can.
That could be one of the reasons that
No, you take
it manual system. They want to make it manual because the parameter is already set. They only need to, as we see in the interest flag, yes or no. No means system will not charge. For penal interest flag, what are the penal interest on which the penal general standard? For a bank, it's a matter of, as Tilman sir is very good at the bank, I think it's a matter of 10 minutes because the standard prominent will be 30-40. They only need to red flag the flag of interest, penal interest, yes. If they click that yes, suppose stock statement by 7, penal interest else 2%. The system stock statement when the system will they are giving on 10. If the covenant, if they say penal interest for delayed stock statement, if they flag it yes at the time of master creation for not only this branch forward but as a system as a whole, this problem will be taken away at the branch at the everywhere level because.
Who is going to put that yes, no? Is it if the branch managers has powers when it comes? That's where your information technology general controls and access controls are very important. If that particular flag or ticking the box, the access is given to the branch manager, he will definitely say yes or no. Okay. So if he says no, which is not within his DOT, then there is an issue. there is a violation of the control which is being designed to perform in a specific manner. And if you are, I mean, if your sanction letter says penal interest has to be charged, it has to be weighed by a supplementary control, like even the supervisor will have powers, not the manager. So if it has gone to the supervisor and
So make a checker.
he makes change, then fair enough. But if manager himself has an access to change,
So generally, all account related configuration, whatever my knowledge is, the account level configuration is available at the branch. Creating an account, setting up the DP, charging red flag, yes. Means charging interest,
The
yes.
account, I don't think it is done at the branch level. The account creation and all is done only at the head office.
So at the branch.
no,
Branch level.
all the nationalized banks, yes, yes,
I'm
you are
giving
right.
a home loan,
Branch.
the setting of the installment, commencement
Achha,
of the
that is,
interest,
I
payment
thought
of the
basic
installment.
formation of the.
No, the charging point, the trigger fact, where should it trigger? From which day the interest should come, from which day the principal should come, from which day the penal interest should be charged. What are the non-compliance where the penal interest should, all these are properties are available at the branch. The moment, if the account creation is say it's a mandatory star mark, until you go down as penal interest, when he's saying no, if it has to give a remark that it has to be no for a specific reason, if the report goes to RO, this is the reason branch has said no for the, which HO has made it mandatory to say yes. Suppose charging an interest on housing loan, it is mandatory. He has to click yes. Then if he is giving a no,
It should not allow to say yes or no.
exactly.
It should be centrally configured, like, we all have a credit card. You fill the petrol in the pumps. It will automatically charge the charges, and then at the month end it will be reversed.
Yes.
So all charges by default you charge it. Now, with the authority, let it go on reverse.
Penal interest also.
This is a design deficiency which we need to highlight. That's why it's an opportunity for us to continue branch auditors because of this lacuna in this in designing of this culture.
No, coming to it, but till date I have not found any master data audit being done in any bank.
They are not doing it because
You
they
are-
expect us to do it.
That is the root cause of all.
That is nothing to do with us, sir. That is where the leakage is happening. Master data should be audited.
And RBI guideline is very strict on penal interest, especially on the
Whether
penal
the
interest.
central statutory auditor or ESA auditor or branch or concurrent auditor.
Sir,
Everyone says.
You have been given 10 days. Can you expect to do the entire master data validation?
See, you just take one loan terms and conditions. On a verification, if you see 2 or 3, you will identify these are all discretionary things, which are not by default you are getting it. So everything has to be
So,
done. But it's
see-
still the indication that the design deficiency.
Is that deficiency? We agree, sir. But are we reporting the design deficiency?
That's what.
Are we highlighting the design
That's where I
deficiency
see, no?
to retain our power,
Yeah.
saying, okay, let's be part of the concurrent auditor? Do you have an audit trail in terms of who has done this? Yes, no. Is there any audit trail generated? We don't know.
Log.
We don't know.
They don't give the access to logs.
Logs, whether they are enabled or disabled, we don't know.
No, log has to be there as per the RBI circular.
Log has to be,
Has dictated how the software has to be there.
how the logs are, who is verifying the logs?
Sir, if you are not giving, I have to say you are not permitted me to do, I am mistaking the opinion.
So many banks are not even, giving access to some of the information, right?
Yes.
So that's, see, I mean, to the panelists, again, another question is, have you noticed any anti-rating of DP or a credit rating, going back? And
Yeah, we had cases, yes.
Again, a design
Yes, I
deficiency.
did divine deficiency because this has been manually done. Yes, we
And
saw that.
again, it will be a class, I mean, it's a good case for us. to
And we are
showcase
reporting that.
To RBI and others, that
No, we are reporting
Also,
that
this is
there is a
also-
possibility of anti-dating everything in the system, including DP.
so
We
these
are not
3
used-
points, I think we need to highlight it to the head office and say that that's why we are
Loan
required.
against property, OD against property. In the merger, one of the banks had a specific loan overdraft against property. And 3 banks which are merged now. One of the banks had a loan for called overdraft against POD. Overdraft against property, where the sanction said this is for a 10-year period, and every year 10% you have to deduct 10% PTP. And next year, and at the end of the 10th year, it should be 0. That is the sanction. But till date, I have seen this is manual. So this is not system. They are not because it is a bank that has been merged into this. This actually this is a manual control where they are doing it manually. They are supposed to do it manually every year. That is not being done. So we said that is that NPA was. Suddenly when we said that the DP is not being calculated, that suddenly in April they reverse, they recalculate that the DP had entered in the system. That is what we are saying with retrospective effect they are saying, doing it. Once they did it, we said, where is your SMA? SMA reporting, why did you show as overdrawn?
Again, sir, it
It is SMA 1, 2, 3.
Retrospective effect can be given.
Exactly,
Even it is not given till the date and they are just correcting by the retrospective
exactly,
effect.
exactly. The system of, we can question the SMA reporting because it should have reported as SMA.
Because the system never showed the overflow, SMA will not be
Exactly,
captured as
exactly,
insurance.
exactly.
The
That
overflow
is, that is one indication of this being backdated.
So in fact, I would like to say that in the bank audit seminar, Premnath and Vijay Srinivas had clearly talked about how to check the number of installments. And one of the branches partner checked the number of installments and realized that there was a miscalculation. And because of the miscalculation, the account was becoming account was a performing asset according to the bank, but had become an NPA according to our calculation. Now, the question here is, for no fault of the borrower, it's a mistake of the bank. Do we make the question before us was, do we make it an NPA or not? Now, this happened in about 4 or 5 cases. So we actually gave it in writing to the bank and then got it from them saying that it was a mistake from their side. And then we insisted that the 10 installments, if the borrower pays immediately and brings it to the correct as per our calculation, we will ignore it. Otherwise, we are going to make it NPA. We're surprised that all the 5 people next day morning they put in the check. So we were not aware of it, and they are doing very well, very good companies. So we have actually brought this matter out in the FAR instead of trying to, because we, for the mistake of the branch, I didn't want to make the client suffer. And if you make it an NPA, it has got a lot of repercussions. So we took that stand.
This is a major problem with all major nationalized banks. Just an observation also. Whenever there is a change in interest rate, the spread. Suppose there was BPLR at one point of time, they changed it to base rate. Now they came to MCLR rate. So the effective all these rate, the spread is getting changed, but the effective change of the EMI, which they should communicate to the bank, to the borrower, is not getting happened. So that is one of the reason the system, because the installment wise, as I said, the money is coming, number of installment, but technically, as I said, should have the DP should have been this by that date. They say recovery is good, 12 EMIs in our audit period, everything will be there. But of the system lacuna or not, one of the reasons what I could say was when the home loan was sanctioned 10 years ago, it was an MCLR, it was BPLR rate, 2008 or 9 or 10 low. Then they changed it to base rate. Then they changed it to MCLR rate. Then they changed another after 3-4 years with the nomenclature of RBI changes. They changed the spread rate and calculation, but the communication to the customer to take his concern and they change the system and that's all.
That again is a design deficiency. Again, it boils down to master data updation not done properly. Communication to the borrower is also not happening. So this again, we need to highlight saying this is where our services are required.
So here, Vijay, can we do one thing? since this sort of a seminar is happening for the first time ever, I don't remember it happening in the last 30-35 years. So since thanks to Deepak that this is happening, why don't we after the seminar jot down all these points and probably write to IBA and RBI and say that these are the areas that need to be taken care. Why not? As a suggestion.
Yeah, see, the idea of this particular seminar is that only. We want to highlight these things and write to IBA and then tell them that, because of these gaps, which are design deficiencies, this can be found by branch auditors if they have been appointed little early and they have given enough time, or to get a different services in terms of master data validation.
Correct.
Give us that services for the chartered accountants, wherein which we have a lot of visa qualified or the information system auditor who can do that. This is the USP where we can take it to the
next level.
next level and try to tell them, okay, these are all the key learnings. This is how we need to highlight it, what went wrong. I mean, we are not only pointing out things like, these are all wrong. Yes, there are solutions to it. That we are saying, okay, the solution is have a robust branch audit, because unlike non-government PSU banks, where the non-PSU banks are all centralized and everything is at one place, where things are scattered, and then you have given powers to the branches and branch managers and so on and so forth. So you cannot take away the branch audit because of this reasons. This is the point which I want to make. Thankfully, you agree, Chairman, and I hope it's a good initiative by the young chairman. We will document this and then send it, and we'll try to, advocate as many times as possible. We'll have such meetings and get the inputs from all our fellow fraternity in terms of what are the things that are going wrong. And so, because these things are going wrong, we are required to rectify this and highlight it so that the health of the branch will be improved. This should be the message to all. Yeah, another thing which, coming back to BP, which I think, have you noticed the stock statements which have been given by the clients, or in a specific format, are they fully filled? And I have anybody checked complete the BP calculation as our brain used to advocate in the seminar, how to do a BP calculation, how to relate it to forms and closing stock and creditors, how the books, whatever they have given in that stock statements can be revalidated. Do you have any point on that?
Yeah. So on the stock statements, many of the stock statements do not contain the detail of the sundry creditors, and which is very critical for the calculation of BP. So many of the stock statements don't contain the details of the sundry creditors, and which become very difficult for calculating the BP. In fact, I had a big fight with one of the banks 2 years ago, when they told me that the creditors need not be considered because the creditors had been considered at the time of sanction. So I had to take up the cudgels.
SBI takes this view.
I think
I was trying not to name the
amount of the State Bank has now, I think, changed their system.
Yeah.
I think that has changed. Earlier, whatever was assessed at the time of sanctioning, that was allowed. Beyond that, whatever was there was considered for calculating the. That was SBI.
Correct.
That was the SBI formula.
Yeah, but at that time when I was doing that branch, the branch was not even doing the considering the excess.
Excess, yeah.
So the entire DP was going for a loss. So that was one issue. The other major issue that I had faced was some smart customers would give the stock statement as on 28th or 27th or 30th of March.
You
And this would never be tallied with their balance sheet. And even if you tried to see the balance sheet, there would be a difference, and the standard answer would be, sir, that was the 3 days before, so it will not match. So I have always been, I in fact put it in writing saying that no stock statement other than the last day of the month should be considered. And if any stock statement is given other than the last date, then we would say that no stock statement has been submitted. Only then things will happen, but I don't know whether the bankers will agree to it or not, but these are the major things that can be taken for a ride.
Yeah, one more issue here is your stocks received against LCs, unpaid LCs. That also you don't get any details.
No details.
Because that also will tantamount to double financing if you don't deduct from the DP.
Exactly, correct.
That nobody who has got stocks that have been imported or bought in against LCs, they don't give the details in their statement.
Yeah, we normally used to take the LC register and check the thing and then.
But we don't.
I mean, of course, it's a two different.
No, but unless you get those stocks, the DP calculation is not correct.
Okay. I
Anything,
request,
sir?
vendors, sir,
Anything
to
on
come
that?
forward in terms of the gaps, what can be, in terms of, in calculations of BP? Can you just throw some light, please?
We can come.
He is one more experienced auditor, so we are also taking his views.
The formats are prescribed, but except for data and stock, nothing is given. And some periods they give production data, and for some period they give sales data. They give sales data, they don't give quantity. They give production data, they don't give opening stock. So if this is a kind of stock statements, why should the bank consider this for the purpose of it? First thing. So when the format is designed, they should have a system wherein they should scan, and then system should read, validate it, and then calculate automatically. Let the system automatically calculate it. That is one suggestion we can make. Two, if they are not providing certain important documents, data, they have already provided CMA projections. Like say they give only stock and data. Say sales, they don't give purchases, but creditors are there. Like we have been working out since intermediate stage, missing figures, single entry system of accounting. There are some problems with calculation. Considering the cost of goods sold, which is projected normally 30 or 40% in case of manufacturing, why can't we work out and see? And we have done this in the present branch audit. 60 cases we have taken, and there are cases where the number of days in debtors is so less. We said you are over financing them. When wherever the number of days in debtors and stock is very less, number of days, we said you are over financing. Wherever it is large, he said you can't take it for the then he's caught there. Because I said, which one are you going to accept? Are you accepting CMA data? And he said, yes, I am accepting CMA data. Then, well, if you are accepting CMA data, now come back to this and accept that this is an overfinance. So this kind of critical analysis, if concurrent auditors start doing it, then the whole banks will start waking up, and everyone will start working on the same basis. Probably that will start working from now onwards, because of the shortage of article students, the chartered accountants are forced to visit the branches now. and the retired bankers are also not available now. Only chartered account, if I have to take up the concurrent audit, it is me who has to go and sit and do now. That's the time now. Irrespective of 60, 65, whoever is accepting the, at that age, it's time we should go and sit. Once we go and sit it, then our application of mind and the article student application of mind and the retired banker application of mind is entirely different.
Sir, one quick point which I want to make. Can whatever you said in terms of assessing data or calculation of BP amount, can it be automated?
It can be because you have given a
Why can't we insist that due to lack of automation, there is a gap in terms of calculation of BP, and then bank is using a lot of money. This is the solution, and if it continues to be in the current state of let's add robust branch audits as well as concurrent audits. So that they cannot talk when we don't want because it is expensive. No, this is a check for the health of the bank. Because the chartered accountants are doing excellent job in identifying these issues to arrest the revenue leakages.
See, one of the checkpoints in the audit is, and in the terms and conditions is end use of funds. End use of funds can be cross-verified with the stock statement data. Looking at the corrections, credit summations, we can calculate the credit, we can arrive at the credit summation and cross-verify with the debtors, opening debtors, sales, and those things also. So there I should be able to say that the creditors what is outstanding, that should not be the creditors outstanding because you are making payment, so many debits you are making here. Your debit summations should almost are nothing but payments to the creditors. So when you say this much of creditors or this much of debit summations, why are still creditors are there in spite of purchases being less? So this whole round of calculation has to be automated. And exactly, if you go back to 2-3 years back, IIM Bangalore has done a study on the banking frauds of 24 pages. It is there. You can Google it, you will find the document. They have encountered the largest, I name it as SBI chairman, they have met it. And they told the MD, they told them why you are not doing all this thing. The MD has accepted because of the cost factor in buying these softwares. So it's a very big joke. And it is also being said in the same document. IIM Bangalore has said it in the same document that they are not able to spend few lakhs or crores of rupees to arrest these frauds. What I am saying is, if I have a stock statement format, if you keep filling it, it is going to arrive what is good and what is bad.
Obviously.
And it is very small software.
Yeah.
So at least 50 crores and above, you give the stock statements in the automated route.
Half of the stock statements have not been given in the format for it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, these are.
One suggestion which I thought is, now with the introduction of the net banking, everything is digitalized. Why they take a manual stock statement? Let the data be on the HTML format. How we do it on a ROC related 11.
JSON files.
JSON file. Let the bank put the login of that. Upload the data
XML file.
XML file.
If only if this happens, can the entire
With the introduction of the
entire process would become automated.
Yes.
If you go for again what called typed or manual this thing, then it will not happen.
Basic thing is
The point which we need to highlight is, okay, let them do whatever they want. Point which we need to highlight to continue our services either as a concurrent audit or a branch one audit, this gap can be arrested or minimized by our intervention and our reporting mechanism, which we need to highlight. See, we are doing an excellent job. We will try our branch audit reports when we analyze all the DPs in this manner by compiling all the stock statements. We can only do on a sample basis. But 100% if we want to identify it, either let them automatic and have access controls and segregation of duties done and then test it by ourselves, these are chaps, or have a robust branch auditors being appointed at the beginning of the year, so that we can scale down our services like interim, final, like how we do it, because these are all done manually. So it needs to be done in a scalable manner to arrest the revenue leakages.
So with the introduction of GST, if the bank really wants to catch their point, the data of sales is already available on the ASP.
One more thing,
The
sir,
data
the
of
concurrent auditor is not fulfilling their particular duties. This is the very big lacuna in the bank audit, because in the scenarios in 2016, I'm seeing that nobody go for the 20 days, 22 days are the at least days. The people are not CA and neither the article is going. If it is fulfilled correctly, then it would be that all the files could be checked, sir. All the documentation and in the DP power checking. I did my personally the DP power calculation of all the accounts. So at that time, the visiting charges, the processing charges, and the penal interest we recovered from the customers. If it is
No,
not the CA, but then the article could be,
No,
sir.
no, I agree your point, but not all the branches come under concurrent audit. There are only
Yes.
certain set of
Certain.
branches which they select. Again, that gives room for revenue leakage.
Well, that is the system. That could be that is the system.
Either they systemize or give us statutory auditors appointment at the beginning of the year, scale down their auditing process like interim, pre-final and final. Then see how the output is, rather than doing a year-end audit and asking us to find all these things is somewhat rubbish. So we have to make a case saying A, B, C, D are the gaps and give them two solutions. Whether you automate it, okay. If you are feeling that is an expensive affair, you give us professionals an opportunity to showcase and show you what kind of revenue leakages are happening. Don't interfere in our independence. If we can demonstrate that, probably our institute this thing will flag will fly high.
That's where the concurrent auditor role is, as she has rightly pointed out. The RBI and the IBA, Indian Bankers Association, they are insisting the concurrent audit mechanism has to be strengthened, but unfortunately, the article students are being sent there. Whatever, if fees is not commensurate, that's a different story altogether. But still, there is lot for it's all about the concurrent audit, and if you once read the concurrent audit mandate, everything is written in that. Everything is written. We have two concurrent audits. We follow the stock statements very methodically. We format it and we plot the data and then we report it. We have put it in our system.
Agreed, sir, but not all the branches come under the purview of concurrent. So again, the untested balance where the concurrent audit doesn't happen. What's the fate of those ones?
Concurrent audit, if it is less than, I think business is less than 50 crores, where concurrent audit is not there. But otherwise,
Yeah, how many such branches is less than 50 crores? What is the audit risk? What is the untested? See, we need to look at that. How material are these branches which less than 50 crores?
What Raghunath is trying to say is, at least in the branches that have concurrent audit, that should be done, which is not being done. Now, from our point of view, what we are trying to say is, okay, look at not only the branches under concurrent audit, but also take the branches which are not under concurrent audit, where the banks are losing money. So how to plug that is what is the question.
Yes.
So let us put it as our recommendation on how to.
that is one thing I did. That ASM method of audit for more than 250 crores. Very detailed workings has to be given. I have seen, I could be able to access some of the ASM audits. There also, I have seen the method of DP calculations are only ritual, but not an investigative. The IBA clearly says the ASM audit should be on the lines of forensic audit. But there also, they have taken it very light. But still what I am saying is wherever it is not an ASM audit, stock auditor submitting reports on the lines of ASM audit, at least once in a year, let the stock auditor carry out the ASM kind of workings and then let the 20, 30, 50% fees be increased. But ASM kind of format should be given to the stock auditor. So he says, have you checked it? He says, yes, we have checked it. It is all yes, no, all right kind of a thing. Where detailed reconciliations are not there in the stock audit, and the stock audit quality has to be improved. As I have said that it needs to be compared with the CMA projections, what is stated in the CMA and what is given actually. And for this kind of data, what is submitting, what can be the actuals? So working in a multiple 360-degree view of stock statement has to be made. That is the crux of all these things.
Sir, submission of stock statements and CMA.
Yeah.
Agreeing with the books. I think let us wait for 6 months. Let us see how many of our auditors are going to qualify that. And then take a call, sir. I think our statutory auditors need to pull up their socks or put on their shoes for now corporate audit that is coming in. Because majority of your borrowers are corporates.
Okay, coming back to another question which I have is, what about the cash withdrawals in the cash credit account? Have you people noticed anything?
Yeah, very huge. I know, not in my case, but I have heard in some cases, yes.
Okay,
Deepak had that.
In my case, there was a construction contractor who were giving huge money to their to the individual name, saying that all are labor contractors. 5,51,200 has been transferred from main contractor to individual names. That 551,200 gets withdrawn on the same day. They are not even making that 200 rupees also in the account. And it is not with one person, almost 20-25 individuals persons name accounts have been opened. And the moment they say labor contractor, there is say in the construction and highway and project 30-35, everything is happening in the same branch under the eyes of the branch manager. But he never objects to the withdrawal of, if we accumulate that individual cash withdrawals transfer, that is running to 30-40 crores in a year.
Sir, one thing is, was it reported in STR, sir? They are supposed to file STR reports. Is it automatically generated?
It is automatic.
It is automatically, sir. It is automatically generated.
This is where I think your suggestion of cross-checking with GST returns.
Yes.
This will help.
Sir, for this cash withdrawals to arrest, our Prime Minister has already insisted on Aadhaar linked bank accounts. So, we have to give such recommendations. If that is not being done, the bank has to amend this control mechanism and then minimize the cash withdrawal in that CC accounts. I mean, they should be, this is again a design deficiency.
It is already there. Look at the account opening. There is a check form where it says credit and debit, cash, debit and credit. Limit is fixed there. By default, it will have 1 lakh crores of cash can be deposited and withdrawn if you just leave it as this. So then you have to alter it.
Yeah.
So at the time of account creation, if it is loan, it should by default disable cash withdrawal. And whenever a person comes there with 2-factor authentication, you should allow the cash to be withdrawn. But that is a mandatory, it's not a mandatory field.
Again, this is an opportunity for us, to showcase saying that why
Correct.
branch audit is required to,
Yes.
flag all this.
I think that is the master data records have to be checked, sir.
Yes.
A case for auditing the master data.
One question to the panelists, Janki sir and Jawad sir, is the maximum committee recommendations on assessment of the working capital limit, 20% of the turnover is the limit of working capital generally bank should fix. what happens, which I saw closely in so many 12 years of lending, at the time of initial submissions, is of projects 100 crores, 200 crores, take 20% of the limit, and the turnover never matches that. And every year, just because the interest is there, DP is there, bank never at the time just renew its activities, saying a good borrower, primary security is there, collateral is there, they never reduce the limit to the 20%. How, as a concurrent audit, as a statutory audit, again, LFR will say, what is that like how should we throw it like to the HO or the statutory auditor that this is the turnover of 50 borrowers, 20% technically the limit should be this much, but these borrowers are enjoying so much crores of rupees, this is the excess, DP will come, there is no question of DP and other things. Interest is being serviced, account is healthy,
But the loan
but
is
the
over
amount
financed.
he is utilizing from the system is too high. So it's more important question, I thought.
Yeah, this is again a red flag which we need to highlight and then give it to central auditor as part of the control mechanism. And I think we are not doing it, to be very honest. But this needs to be given to the.
I think it's only recommendatory report, maximum committee report is only recommendatory. There is no bank that my HO or my bank guideline does not say that it should be restricted to 20%. The study was done 20 years ago. Decent limit recommendations report was that up to 20% should be assessed normal in the normal working parameter. COVID happens, this happens, that one. Our bank HO is renewing, sir. What can I do? Renewal is there, DP is there. You can just find out me the issue and let me know.
Our duty is only to
Exactly.
highlight,
Yeah.
like how we report on
This is
generally
not,
on Goshen
mandatory.
Dilani
Is
committee.
that,
recommendation.
report mandatory to the bank? It's not mandatory.
No, although it's not mandatory.
It's
See,
recommended.
LFAR, there is a residual clause. Any other matter where you want to disclose kind of, then you can put it as a recommendation. There is nothing wrong. See, like in Bhagavad Gita, like you do your duty. Don't look for the ultimate results and outcome. It's a good point. It's better we give that, whether the manager likes it or not. It's a call should be taken by the central auditor or the branch. Then at least we can, in view of the public interest, we can, put media, and then we can write to the finance minister or somebody saying that this is what is
In
happening.
fact, some years ago, I saw this in, I think, State Bank of India. I don't remember which bank, but they said for smaller loans, they were following this 20%. But for the larger loans, they were following the CMA data and all that.
No, that is specifically for the purpose of mortgage loans. You have a good property. They say your turnover is this much. I'll give 20% of the turnover. I don't ask any stock statements. Good, but there is one condition that the amount should be used for the business purpose. Number one. We have seen one case where a doctor mortgaged his property and he withdraws cash. And we have learned through the internal bank employees that he is doing a money lending business without registration. And it's a clear-cut illegal business. So bank is encouraging illegal business, right? And he doesn't check. The bank has to, that there is a very clear condition that the officers has to ensure end use of funds. He is withdrawing funds, but what is he doing with this? And there is another case where 1.4 crores of cash is given, loan is given to an agriculturist. 1.4 crores. He's doing that green house farming and all. And he doesn't submit any financial statements. Banker says, manager says, he is anyhow it is exempted. GST exempted, income tax exempted. Why should I collect bank papers? Why should I collect the income tax papers? He's not filing any income tax papers. Okay, let him not file it. But how do you know the end use of funds? So we have suggested that end use of funds, let him get audited. If income tax audit is not applicable or whatever not applicable to him, but at least for the sake of your governance, you get it audited and then see that the end use of funds.
Yeah, I mean this case will also fit into why we need chartered accountants for bank planning. Okay, coming to the migration issues, because we have seen a lot of banks getting merged with the other banks, thankfully, by whatever synergies we thought about. There are a lot of migration issues which were untested, unclear, unnoticed, not reported. So there are a lot of opportunities, I think. Well, I'm not asking any questions. I'm saying it's an opportunity for all the chartered accountants and to showcase this to IBA and other forums that it's very important to get these things reviewed, audited by a third party agency like ICI and its members, and try to reconcile and close all the issues relating to the migration of two different banks which are running in two legacy systems getting merged, because there could be multiple custom IDs existing. The KYCs are not being proper, they're not being called for, and all the other things, the locker rents not being done, interest not being charged, things like that. So I think, thankfully, it was a nice discussion that we had. And thanks to Deepak for the chairman giving this opportunity in the branch audit, where, first time in the history of ICI, we have started this on the key learnings. And my experience goes, whenever I was part of the big four firms, whenever we complete the audit, we always used to have a debrief meeting. And in that debrief meeting, we used to discuss like this and try to, understand each other, what went wrong, what would be the improving points that we need to look into, and how to go about it in the next year, which we need to jot down, and then, we used to take it forward. I think we have adopted the same methodology now, and I hope our fellow members can understand and appreciate and contribute to this kind of thought processes. So I urge all the young members to participate in this kind of a discussion to ensure, what kind of, we can see that the ICA flag flies high, and we ensure the good quality in our audits. Thank you.
And on a lighter note, that coverage next year maybe it will be only 70 or 80%. 90% was last year, 80% this year. Ultimately, I think they want to cover only 60%
Of the branches.
60% of the total advances. I think that is what they are slowly trying, because what they feel is there is no value addition from the branch auditors. That is the opinion of the RBI.
Jawad sir, anything from your side to final sum up the session?
No, I mean, not so-called sum up, but I think this is the beginning of it, and let us have once Vijay, once you write down the inputs from this seminar. Let's also try to see personally how we can, take it to IPA and also to RBI, and see that the so-called perception that they are not getting value addition from the auditors should be removed.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, this perception is being carried on for what has been done. I won't say in the last 5 years, but before that. I'm pretty confident that for the last 5 years, the quality of the audit has improved. And I would like to thank Premnath and Vijay Srinivas also for the beautiful seminar that happened this year, which actually had given me a lot of inputs and which improved my output for the audit. So I'm sure, a lot of people have taken lessons from that. And as far as we are concerned, not only as the members of this panel, but in all our endeavors, we must at every point of time try to guide the youngsters on how to do a better job in the audit and how they can add value to the audit. From now onwards, not only forget about bank audits, let it be government audits, let it be CAG audits, let it be any kind of audit. Our focus should be on value addition only. and only then will we be able to stand in the market. And today, especially with the new changes that are coming in and central government's perception of what chartered accountants are. So this needs to be changed and changed immediately and drastically. And therefore, I would suggest that whatever are the key, learnings from here, we should take it very seriously and bring it to the notice of all those who matter. That, we ourselves are now, doing our best to ensure that there is a value addition. So I think that would actually be beneficial to our entire profession.
What I feel is, at the end of the day, when it comes to the bank audits, the blame will always come and stand on the concurrent auditors. Because today you and I will take all the suggestions to the RBI or IBA. The first thing they do is, can a statutory auditor spend this much of time? No. But is there anyone who is supposed to do all this? Yes. Who is that concurrent auditor? When he is doing it, so your job will become less? Yes. So is he doing it? He is not doing it. But is there a concurrent audit? Yes, it's there. But why they are not doing it? We all know. So what I suggest is, let the ICI or let the branch or regionals make it mandatory to make all the firms send at least one person to at least 1 or 2 sessions of the concurrent audit session. Make it mandatory. Let them come. It's not the concurrent audit certification course. Tell the RBI or tell the branches also, banks also, that these are the people who are attending. Encourage them. These are the people who are not attending any sessions. Don't encourage them. And you can see
peer
the
review,
change.
sir, kind of peer review. could be
Yes,
there, kind of-
there should be a specific peer review on the concurrent audits carried out.
Yes, sir.
Let
So
them.
that's the best.
So why I am saying specific is, there are certain concurrent auditors who are contributing very well. There are certain concurrent auditors who are not doing anything and taking fees. And those who are doing are not remunerated. And those are not doing it, they are remunerated. Those are doing it, and they are also being rewarded at the same path. That's injustice. So, as you rightly said, let there be a specific audit quality kind of a thing on concurrent auditors way of doing it, and then encourage them. Let the message go to the RBI. Then see what we are asking is, let it be a concurrent audit, let it be a statutory audit, give us some work. And then you increase the fees for whoever is doing it. So the message is, make the concurrent auditors to come and sit and listen and do practical things what we are doing, like how to do a system audit. Like sir was asking about mandatory master key verification. How to do it? Let us train them. And how to evaluate the stock statements, how to compare the stock statements with the account operation, account details comparing. Let us train them and then give that quality, and automatically quality will improve, and then everyone will get the same name.
When I was doing my law, one of the things that we were made to do in the last semester was to write, cases. First is you read the cases of the Supreme Court and the High Court and all, and then you make your own, file an affidavit. How do you file an affidavit? It initially looked to me like a spoon feeding, but then I realized that every person who did his law was on day one ready to face the court, ready to file the papers. Now, in our case, we are very good at passing exams. But as you rightly said, the practical aspect is missing. So what I suggest is, let us not wait for somebody to tell us what to do. I would join hands in this. I think I'm sure Janki will also come in, and many seniors would come in. Let us make a sort of a course, a training module for the concurrent auditors, a complete set of steps that need to be done. There would be about 150, 200 steps. Doesn't matter. But once we do this, every chartered accountant doing every concurrent audit will be performing in the same best way, uniformly, and they will do it. And then it is not that it is going to be mechanically. Everyone has to apply their mind, and people who do apply their mind better will perform better. but there is a base level of performance that will be guaranteed.
Shall we launch a refresher course on bank
Yeah,
audit?
we can.
Evening or
We can do it, yes.
weekdays? Any
Well,
week?
see,
We can do it.
Again, see, we are conducting many courses, but it is personally we have to invite them at the cost of total profession. See, I as a chairman or I as a management committee member or a central council member should take personal interest in inviting every firm, please come, please come. It's my marriage in my house. Please come. Why am I doing this? I am doing at the reputation of so many firms. It's not my marriage. I keep listening to this. It's not my marriage in my house. Why should I take that? It should not. That doesn't work at all. If I am seriously looking at doing something to this profession, I should go beg and then bring them physically here, make them sit and listen. That is the only thing that's going to change. I have published. Oh, my job is over. So that will not do. That's only a ritual. So we should why should such a senior man, Sir Jankina sir, at that age, why should he come and sit here?
With this step, sir, scope of concurrent audit must be increased in the RBI view.
Yes.
That the CAs are doing their duty properly.
Why should
And
why
there
should
should
we
be a
come up with
mechanism for the access power, sir.
that should be the way in which the branches should take it forward. And then let's take that kind of initiative and pull the people and then make them train. See, if quality goes up, everyone will get benefited out of it. That's what we need to understand.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. An excellent session. Coming to end, I just saw it's at 8 o'clock, so almost 2 hours went in a very productive session, a quality session from the.
I think we really enjoyed the session.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Exactly. It was a very healthy discussion and very interactive, especially for me also. As I thought I came to learn of many things from the inputs of Jawahar sir, Janki sir, Premnath sir and Vijay sir. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting the invitation and agreeing to on a Monday, on a weekday, that too starting on Monday, we agreed to this session. Thank you so much. May I request ma'am to please
Okay, I will.
give mementos to our panelists.
So thanks heartily from my side. It's my first seminar in Hyderabad.
There is sir, sorry, please come on to the dais, sir. Please. Ma'am, I request SIS secretary sir to come on to the dais.
Sir, please come, sir.
I request SIS secretary sir to give memento to Jawahar sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Now, sir, SIS secretary want to add 2 lines? No.
I think they've covered. I can't come and say they've done an excellent presentation.
Thank you. I request the treasurer of the branch, Gizariga sir, to propose vote of thanks for that.
Without you, it would
Happy evening once again, friends. And this lovely interactive session has come to an end. I thank Vijay sir, Sri Jankina sir, Sri Jawahar sir, and Premnath sir for sharing the dayas and giving a lot of inputs. Thank you so much. Thank you.